No, you're good. Hang on just a second. It is that time. SDH AM. John, hear you there. Thanks for coming on as you always do. Yes, we are going to talk about what happened last night in Orlando. And Mike Gramajo visited us before he went into WESH-TV in the city. He had Dayside this week. So we'll catch up with Mike. We'll go through all the things, and we will go over what happened last night in Open Cup. It's going to be another Red Clay wrap-up day today. We've got a lot of coaches from around the state joining us in both hours. Justin O'Steen from Pike County joining us in a couple of minutes. Rob Husted set to join us at 9:30. Jason Galt set to join us at 10:30. Benjamin Parker from Savannah Art set to join us at 10:45. Lucas Kimmel from Thomasville on the girls' side is going to join us in added time. We're efforting Dylan Butler, and we will see if it's okay if Dylan is not the busiest man in the Northeast, that he can join us at 10 o'clock. And that's the rundown. We still got news to get into, a lot of stuff with Southampton, the NASL and the lawsuit, and IFAB and a clock when it comes to starting and stopping. We'll get into all of that as we kind of drift in and out. We've also got Arsenal on a title. I know that Bart wanted to come in and discuss things that might have to be an added time, and we'll figure it all out. So that's where we are today. Another supersized show, probably having another one of those tomorrow as we continue what's going on this week. All right, no dilly, no dally. Let me bring in Justin O'Steen from Pike and discuss the things. Where is the trophy, sir?
Last I saw it, I took it to the front office so they could put it in the trophy cabinet. So I'm not exactly.
And yes, now it's time for the freezing. All right, so hang on just a second.
I'm sorry, I keep getting disconnected for some reason.
Yeah, it's what browser are you using to tap in?
I think Google, but I could be wrong.
Okay, because Restream was telling me it's like, well, if you use a certain one, what kind of phone do you have?
Chrome. Oh, see, you're going to people to make fun of me now. I have Samsung, so.
Oh, I mean, is it iOS or Android?
Android.
Okay, Google Chrome is what they're recommending, and dedicated Wi-Fi connection as well. Because I was having these issues and folks were freezing, and that's what they're telling me. So Google Chrome and Google Chrome and on use a dedicated Wi-Fi connection. That's what they're saying. So Google Chrome and Wi-Fi is what they're saying if you're using your phone. So yep,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. I got you.
Okay. For some reason, the volume went down. I can barely hear you.
Weird. That's I'll speak up. It's perfectly cool with me. So you think you know where the trophy is? You think it's up front?
Yeah, it's more than likely in the trophy case.
And we'll continue efforting as we go here. So you think so? Yeah, I know it's sometimes it's very, very moody and firewalls and cement and all this kind of stuff. So what's the response been like back there in Zebulon?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What's the response been like in Zebulon with the title?
Oh, everybody's been celebrating. I guess it really hasn't hit me or the girls yet, but pretty nice to go back to back. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's all good. I was gonna say, you don't have a laptop or a desktop or anything near you.
No, let me try to connect to our Wi-Fi, but yeah, they have so many filters on this thing. I really don't think it's going to work.
Well, we'll give it a shot. I'll go ahead. I'll put you back in the studio space, and we can go there. So I will put you there, and we'll catch up with Coach O'Steen, and let's see if he gives me a thumbs up, and we'll bring him back in. So Justin, when you think you're ready, give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you back in and we'll keep talking. All right. So 2 thumbs up from Justin. Okay. All right. So we talked about what it was like this particular ride. How hard is it to go back to back?
Hold on a second. I think I figured out the volume. How hard is it to go back to back? With this group, I don't necessarily. I mean, of course, it was hard, but this is what I expected that we would do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great group of girls.
When I mention this group of seniors to you, what comes in your mind?
Well, I only had one, and she was injured all year. So,
did anything? What was the most pleasant surprise from this year for you?
The most pleasant surprise was probably the ability for our freshmen to step in and fill roles that seniors left last year.
And when you go back and look at this season in particular, what has it been like from day one when you walked in the door to take over the program to now? What has it been like to see the program, and what has it been like how has it evolved, and what's it been like to see it evolve over time?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. I say when I first started teaching here, I was the JV boys and JV girls head coach.
Mhm.
And I had no idea what I was doing. I had played soccer a little bit or whatnot, and we practiced together. Played, I don't know how many games with that group of JV girls. We played several games with only 9 players.
Wow.
And won a few of them, which was crazy. I had a good little group then, but just the what am I trying to say? I guess the popularity of the sport in this town has definitely grown and increased, and I don't know if necessarily I have anything to do with it. I think it's just a sport that girls like to play, and they have a good opportunity to play on a good team. So more kids and more kids continue to sign up and play at the our rec department or on the little club team here in town. Some girls travel outside of the county to play on other club teams, but it's been crazy. I don't know if you know this, but I played soccer here when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first team. We started the team in, I guess, 90-ish or somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And, we weren't very good. The girls, they finally got a girls team in, I would assume 96-ish, maybe somewhere around in there. But when I first started playing, we had 2 girls on the boys team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy.
So if I was to ask you in your mind, what is the most important thing about high school soccer in your mind here in the state of Georgia? What is it?
The biggest thing in high school soccer, and club soccer as well, I guess, just to provide a way for kids who possibly can't afford to go to college to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
It also, gives you teamwork and hard work and, anything being an athlete, you have to make sacrifices and, you might not be able to go to the parties or, hang out with friends like you need to, if you want to be a good teammate, I guess. But I guess soccer provides just the biggest thing is just provides a way for kids to get an education.
So then if I was to ask you if there's one thing that you'd like to change or update, considering that you're an alumnus, you've been there, you know what it means in Zebulon and in Pike, and now that you've been coaching there and you're winning championships, is there one thing about high school soccer that you would either update or change? What would that be?
Well, this has just recently happened in the past couple of years. The postseason rankings, I like the idea. But you get some weird matchups. I'll just take, for example, our first round matchup with Josie. In the postseason rankings, they were I want to say 52nd out of 54 teams. I don't know why the teams ahead of them didn't get chosen, but the postseason rankings, I feel like they're good in a way. But if you take teams like like us, for example, I'm trying to think who I had this conversation with the other day. I can't remember who it was I had the conversation with, but you try to play teams that are going to push you and make you better,
Right.
and you may end up with a loss. And then you have some teams who only play teams in their region who have really good records and end up placed really high in the postseason rankings, and they probably didn't deserve to be there. I would also change the fact that in the postseason, in the brackets, you could end up playing two region opponents to start the first and second round of playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like our boys last year, we finished ahead of Jackson in the region, but then we had to go play there at their place for the first round of playoffs. And, which was weird. And if we had won that game, we would have had to play Morgan County the next round, which, to me, I feel like they should figure out a way to keep you from playing a region opponent until the quarters or semifinals, maybe.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that completely because we've seen like in Champions League where you're not going to be playing any one of the top four teams until at least the Final Four, and so you don't have one of those kind of statistical meltdowns, I guess, when it comes to figuring out an opponent.
Right.
With what you've built there at Pike. And I know that there are, whether it's in region this time, in regions past, or surrounding counties, there are programs that are still trying to build. They're not quite having success to a level that they would like. They're still struggling in trying to get players or have a proper venue. Proper amount of respect to the program on the whole from either the community or the school system or what have you. For those programs that are grinding right now, still trying to find their way, still trying to get enough players where you're not having 9 and you're not, where you're not just playing a match with 9 players. For those programs that are building and trying to grow and are still struggling in wins and losses, what advice would you give those coaches about perseverance and what the program could mean if you stick with it?
Was as far as create, first off, I feel like you have to create some success to get people interested. Mm-hmm. And first thing, it takes hard work. Number one, you got to have a group of girls that aren't afraid to work. And I feel like in our county, that's kind of, I won't say, I'm just kind of bred into their genetics, I guess. I don't know. They just like to work hard. Yeah. They don't know any other way. Yeah. But first off, have some success. So maybe, schedule some teams that are like you, and, so the girls can taste some success. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing is they got to get the kids have to start playing early, work on their ball skill and just be, so many teams that would play that have girls that have never played soccer before, but they want to try it out and hopefully they have fun, but sometimes I'm sure it wouldn't be, but the kids have to start playing early. Yeah. And I wouldn't say they have to only play soccer when they're a kid. It's great to have multi-sport athletes in every sport, but to be good you have to start playing early, and you have to play in the off season. Like, and you have to play club, without a doubt, and not just club, but for a good team, good coach that's going to develop you. To me, that's the biggest thing. The kids need a ball at their feet when they're 3 years old. Get them out there, and every kid has a ball, and just ball skill, ball skill, ball skill, but make it fun.
Justin O'Steen, the head coach at Pike County, back-to-back champs on the girls' side. My last question for you. This World Cup that is coming here in less than 30 days.
Right.
When it comes to the impact and its legacy, what would you like for the impact of this World Cup to be and the legacy of this World Cup to be, and how it impacts everything top down here in this hemisphere?
Well, to have a big impact, I feel like that the U.S. men are going to have to have some good results. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do. They haven't had the best build up coming into it,
Right.
but you see hints of them being able to live up to their expectations, I guess. But I feel like to have a big impact, they're going to have to be successful. I wish they would lower the ticket prices a little bit, because I'm not going. Good God.
You could have a big party there on the surface at Pike County High School. You could do
Right.
go into the indoor weight room and have viewing parties all you want.
Right. That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, go to the pizza place downtown, and you could just have it there and blow it out all there. But no, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
One thing I would say, you asked me what else I would change.
Yeah.
The venues for the championship game.
Mm-hmm.
After the day after our game, I went down to Thomaston, which is 15-20 minute drive, and watched the Thomasville and model game, girls game. A very good game. But I noticed, like, the size of the field was like, you probably had 12, 15 yards outside of the penalty area on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And where we played, there was maybe 7 yards. I mean, it was pretty narrow.
Yeah.
Great place, but the field was narrow.
Yeah.
I would hope that GHSA would look into, before they decide what venues they're going to use, to look and see how big the field is, because that was a pretty tight space.
Yes. And I believe you played at St. Pius in Northeast Atlanta.
Right.
Okay. I can't thank you enough for ducking in, batting leadoff when you've come in to visit with us and break everything down. Obviously, since we know how to get a hold of you, if there's something going on, we're gonna ring the doorbell and find out what's going on there at Pike County. Thank you for what you're doing there at Pike, what you've been building there at Pike. I know it means a little extra special for you and all these kinds of things. I'm glad you know where the trophy is. I'm glad that you've got the celebrations going. You got the gear and the rings all figured out?
I'm still working on a ring design. I'm still cutting grass right now, because I got to keep the field looking right for graduation. But after graduation, there's going to start installing turf, so I won't have to cut grass anymore. Well, I've been making certificates, and we have a banquet tonight. They just sprung it on us like a day or two after the championship game. We need to do the banquet. Let's do it on this day. Okay. So I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to get everything fixed and done. And I need to go round up a box of tissues.
Yes.
So I will definitely shed some tears. But
yes. But once again, thanks for doing this. Have a great banquet. We'll be knocking on your door soon. It's always great to see you and what you're doing down there at Pike County. Thanks,
sir. Thank you for doing what you do as well.
All right. Be safe. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
There goes Justin O'Steen, the head coach of Pike County. And back to back on the girls' side. Yeah, he got the opportunity to play at St. Pius. A little bit of a tighter surface than most folks, and so Pike County gets a championship again. And so it's that starts off our red clay wrap-ups for day number 2. Ricky, as always, being the intrepid producer that he always is, reminds us, Morning Lokeville, by the way, that Uzbekistan is coming to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground starting on June 10. So it is the Uzbekistan Football Association is going to have base camp Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. So what we are going to do is we're going to be drifting into a bit of a Uzbek education. And so we're going to be drifting into that as well. So we'll be keeping track of that, and we want to welcome them on June 10th. So it'll be really cool to see what's going on with them there. So yes, morning local, morning Ricky. And as we continue our good mornings, it's time to go to Greenbrier and catch up with Rob Husted and find out what's going on at Greenbrier. So where is the trophy, sir?
I actually put it up in our display case yesterday.
Have you been able to secure its location ever since you won the trophy? Have you been able to keep an eye on it the entire time? Has it kind of wandered off on its own, or have you kind of kept an eye on it? Bless you.
No, it's thank you. It's always been within, I don't want to say arm's reach, but in the same room. It's not something I'm going to let just wander off with people. A lot of the players and parents want to take pictures. So, I brought it out for our end of year banquet and let them do some pictures and stuff like that. But as soon as it was done, it was right back in the display case and safe forever.
Not like the Stanley Cup where everybody gets a day with it. They can do whatever they want with it. And then as long as it returns back to you by the end of it, huh?
No, to be honest, I do not trust high schoolers.
When it was the point that was made on the broadcast, and for those that follow the program, we know what happened with this group of seniors when they were freshmen, going up against Chamblee and the result that was then, and then coming through as seniors and getting the result that happened this year. To see that progression of both the players and the program, what was that like for you to kind of see the progression and have that moment for that senior class?
It was pretty awesome. It was kind of a full circle moment. It's one of those things that every year when our season ends, I always kind of take the seniors off the side and have a, kind of a last little talk with them. And every year I tell them, it's like, there's only one team that this talk is different around the state. And to have that talk with them and be smiling while we're doing it, it was such an incredible feeling. I was happy for the girls that they were able to come back. I mean, that loss 4 years ago was devastating. It was a brutal game, and it wasn't easy mentally for them to overcome that. But the fact that they came back, they fired, and went right at them. I mean, it was awesome to see them, that maturity, the growth, just the experience of the last 4 years come back into play.
What has it meant to the program and the community with all of that hard work, you get to add another sport that gets another state championship, because they'd experienced it, some of the players with flag, and they knew what it was like to come out the other side as a state champ. But now you get to add girls soccer to this mix. What has this meant to the community?
It's been pretty huge. So this is actually the Columbia County's first soccer championship in any boys, girls at all. Yep. So to show the rest of the state that, hey, there's some good soccer over here. We have some quality teams. We can play with the best. We're kind of on this remote little island out here by ourselves. And, we're not really in the South Georgia, the Savannah area. We don't really have connections to Atlanta. We're kind of just in this no man's land where people forget about us. And it's nice to be able to remind people that, hey, soccer is alive, well, and strong out here. And the community rally. These girls have played, they've traveled together all over the country for years, and the parents all know each other, the friends and family are all, we got back Wednesday night last week, and we had probably 200, 250 people here waiting at almost midnight, for us to roll in on the bus. And that's amazing. It feels good to have that kind of support from the community and the people around them.
Did you learn anything about yourself this year?
That's a good question.
Whether it was a reaffirmation or something that literally you learned.
I think honestly, what I learned about myself is probably that I've got more in me than I thought I had, because there were times this season that it just, I mean, the drag of the season where we're playing 6 games in 10 days in one stretch, and dealing with parents and admin and all the other stuff that every coach out here deals with. And you get to a point where you're like, man, I don't know how long I can do this. I don't have the energy. I'm 40 something years old, and I'm barely holding on as a thread, and now you're adding all this stuff, and I feed off the energy of the teams. It's when they're happy and fun, like, it gives me energy to keep going. All right, we got game 5 of 6 down. Let's go. We get one more in this 10-day stretch, and and get this thing figured out. Then we can relax and rest. It's I don't know. It's kind of it's almost a surreal feeling to me. Like, the one thing that I took away from this is how much work comes after winning the game. Like, there's so much there, and and I'm kind of learning a little bit myself. Like, I don't enjoy that part of it. I like the game part of it. I don't enjoy all the other stuff.
Yeah, the logistics and all of the off the field stuff that catches up with you.
Right. Yeah. And it just drains you as a coach. It is so mentally draining some days. And every coach will tell you that no matter how magical the season is, we just won the championship. We just got the trophy. There are still people that are upset with me because so-and-so didn't get enough playing time, or so-and-so felt like they got neglected in the mentions, or, and it's like this never ending stream. And it's that stuff that drains you more than anything else. So just finding out like how much I can actually put up with and deal with and keep going it was interesting to me.
When have you had the opportunity to sleep in at all since you got home?
No. Well, I mean, the last Saturday I had a little bit of a sleep in, about an extra hour. I had to get up and take my daughter to gymnastics, but other than that, it's still, I haven't stopped. Today is the last day of testing at school, so hopefully tomorrow I'll get to sleep in a little bit.
There you go. For those coaches and programs, and I'm sure that we see them all around, and East Georgia would be no different, that they're struggling with their programs. You might see it in region play, you might see it in a neighboring county, just from talking to other coaches and things like that. For those programs that are trying to build and find their way to get those players, to where you've got 15 or 16 or 17 players, or might be struggling with it, with trying to fill out a roster, trying to score a goal, win a game, win a region game. What advice would you give those coaches of those programs that are grinding right now, and it seems like the light at the end of the tunnel is an oncoming train? What advice would you give those coaches of those programs?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is build relationships with the players directly as people, not players. Like, kind of going back, I've been around these girls for 4 years, some of these girls for 4 years, and I've gotten to know them really well between bus trips and benches, sitting on the bench on the sidelines, or, some of them we work together in FCA, or I've had in class, but I know them inside and out very well. And they trust me as their coach. They trust me as a person, as a mentor. And that, I think, was far more valuable than anything I could have ever given them on the field. It's just having that trust. There was a point this season, actually, where we started pretty rough. We had the St. Pius and Marist games and some other, even though other wins came in there, they weren't what we wanted out of the wins. And we kind of had a moment where I just gathered all of them in my classroom. I said, all right, look, I can tell something's not right. Y'all need to tell me. I'm a big boy. I'm an adult. I can handle any criticism. I can handle anything you can say. Nothing you can say I haven't heard before. So hit me with whatever it is. And we kind of had a little bit, airing, I don't want to say airing of grievances, but there was a moment where, there's some brutal honesty from them. And I was able to take that in. Okay, I understand what you're saying. I'm hearing you. Now, let me give you the perspective that we as coaching staff have, and this is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing that. And then we kind of had how do we kind of meet in the middle with some things? And from that point on, that's when the season really turned. When they fully gave in to that trust to the coaching staff. So it wouldn't have been possible without building those relationships with the people and not the players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, considering after those first 2 losses, you didn't give up a goal for February 13th for 2 months.
Yeah.
63 days ish. You didn't give up a goal.
Right.
And then that goal was given up in the Buford game, which is something that you wanted to schedule anyway because you're outside of region play and you want to get ready for A, the road trips, B, having that kind of quality of competition, to see where you are when you get into the postseason and you're going up against Clark Central and Johns Creek, Laster Pope, et cetera. You did that on purpose after not giving up a goal for 63 days. I mean, that's insane to think about that you were able to do that after that, coming together, closed door meeting, what have you, and turn things around the way that you guys did.
Yeah, it goes back to that trust, just having that trust with the players, and giving them an opportunity to voice. There's a lot of teams that I've been a part of, I've been a coach of, and realized after the fact that I didn't give the players enough voice in what they wanted and what they felt and what direction they wanted to go. I just said, this is what we're going to do because this is what I think as a coach is best for us. And if you don't like it, tough, you can sit the bench. And that's not the way to run a team. That's a way to run a team, but obviously it wasn't the right way for us. So just given them a chance to literally just say whatever was on their mind. And I told them, I was like, y'all, there's nothing off limits. If you don't like the way I dress, tell me, or something. It was stupid stuff like that. Just kind of trying to lighten the mood a little bit, but it was like anything that you guys need to get off your chest, now's the time. And them having the freedom to do that, I think allowed them a lot more freedom to play loosely on the field. It was a lot more energetic. They were much more connected as a team than they were before that point.
How has the sport grown since you showed up there at Greenbrier?
So my first year here was one of those kind of trial by fire hose moments. It was my first time as a head coach. I've been coaching for 20-something years, but never as a head coach. So getting that opportunity was kind of crazy. But just give you raw numbers. Like from tryouts, I had 108 boys come out for tryouts in January.
Wow.
And, I can keep 45-ish. And that number just keeps getting bigger. And it's kind of wild to think about. The number of club teams around here is growing. There's, we have the ECNL and the Arsenal and the Bulls and all, like they're just growing and getting bigger every time too. Mm-hmm. So it's awesome to watch. I love seeing it. I wish it was one of the things that I wish it had happened, 30 years ago when I was playing. Maybe it'd have been, a bit bigger, but seeing it now, I couldn't be happier for the sport, for the club, for the school, all of it.
So then when you talk about the impact that it can have on just high school soccer in general, in your mind, what's the most important thing about high school soccer here in the state of Georgia?
Most important thing to me, I don't know if this is kind of where you want to go with it, but to me, honestly, it's recognizing that for a lot of these players, it's the last time they're ever going to play.
Yeah.
And giving them the opportunity to enjoy that time, to put them in the best position they can succeed. That's my most important thing as a coach, and what I want to see out of soccer here at Greenbrier and in Georgia in general. And I've talked to a couple of the other coaches, and they're very similar beliefs, that like most of these people will never play again. I've got 3 out of 9 seniors that are going to play again. That's 33% odds. That's a big signing class too. Mm-hmm. So I want to send them off into the world with good remembrances of soccer. I want them to go, I love playing soccer in high school. Maybe I could get into coaching. Maybe I can get my child into playing and grow the sport more. I don't want them leaving here going, I hated my senior year. I hated the last 2 years I played in high school. My kid will never play. I will never be around it. I will never support it. Like, that's the last thing we want as coaches. We want to grow the sport, not shrink it.
So then if there was one thing that you could tweak, change, address, whatever, what would that one thing be that you'd like to sit there and see changed or have changed, what have you?
I think more input from the coaches when large scale decisions are made would be good. I think having a way to standardize or better standardize refereeing or clarifying certain things with it. There's a lot of points in the season where, myself, other coaches, where we're just frustrated because we don't know what the call was, how it was handled or anything. And then we get back together after the game and I talk to them. They're like, do you know what happened? I was like, nah, I have no idea what happened. Do you? No clue. Didn't look like a foul to me. Yeah, it didn't look like it happened to me either. So just having that kind of clarity, I think, would be great. Maybe, having some kind of, I don't want to say after action report, but, just a quick, like, one-liner type thing of, hey, this foul was committed at this time. This is what the infraction was for, or something like that. But but also at the same time to help keep some accountability on the referee side to make sure their standards keep going up. I know a lot of the struggles that we have comes outside of the field, the boundaries of the field and the bench. It comes from the stands, comes from the admin and stuff. Some of that stuff, I don't know how to handle that. I don't know how to deal with an unruly parent who's shouting from the stands on the other side of the field, but it does affect the game. It affects the players, affects me, affects the referees, like everything. So getting some, uniform way to fix that or address that, I would be great. And
then my probably next to last question, World Cup. With the World Cup coming in less than a month, what would you like the impact and legacy of the World Cup to be going forward?
I just want it to be positive. That the world soccer right now does not have a great name. There's from, the World Cup in Qatar was not handled in the best way, and is it being handled the best way in the United States? We don't know. There's all kinds of stuff. I just want the United States in general to come out of this with a positive reflection of it and not a negative impression of a bunch of, to use the colloquialism is the grass fairies that we hear all the time as soccer players. How many times have you heard somebody talk about, all soccer players just flop, they just fake, and I don't want to see all that. I want to see good quality soccer that somebody that has never played before can look at and say, that's a beautiful game. I want to play that game. I want to try that thing. I don't want to have an experience where it's, everybody's going, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to do that. That's boring. It's, 90 minutes of no action and a lot of flopping and crying for nothing. We got several of the games right here in our backyard in Atlanta. I want to be able to go over there and have a good experience. I don't know if I'll get to one of the games, but I want to hear about somebody who went there and said, that was awesome. Being in that environment was incredible. Seeing and feeling the nationalism, whether it was the United States or other countries' fans. That's what the World Cup is about. Support your country, supporting, the fandom of your team, your home team. And to have that ruined by either controversy or bad play or too many guys flopping around on the ground, like that to me, that hurts the sport more than anything else.
Did you get your rings and your gear all figured out? What
we have designs on the rings. We have that was one of those things. I didn't realize how much work goes into it. It's like I figured, hey, somebody just give me one. Like, no, you got to pick the design, you got to pick the colors, you got to pick what's on it, and all these other things. And I was like, mind blown. The T-shirts and the news stations and all the other things that go with it. Like I said, it's just a almost never-ending stream of things to get done. But I think we're finally winding down. I have all the designs figured out, have more or less completed all the interview requests and stuff like that. So hopefully have a chance to relax here soon.
Well, we can't thank you enough for being on with us as much as you have as the season has gone on, because we always like to see what's going on in and around the state, not just, inside a perimeter or anything like that. We cover the global game, but we just happen to be based in Atlanta, and can't thank you enough for everything that you're doing out there out east. And it's always great to see you in person. And we got your 27 schedules figured out.
I think most of it. I could use one or two more games for the girls, but winning the state championship kind of deters some people from that, especially with the new PSR coming. So I'm getting a lot of, well, maybe if nothing else comes up, we can work something out type of answers right now. But we're getting in there. We're figuring it out.
Okay, because then the coaches that we've been talking to, some are looking for road games and things like that, and so we may try to try and combine resources here. We might
Send
try
them my way. I'm happy to.
Might try to broker some games here for 27. As always, my friend, it's great to see you. Catch your breath and maybe get in a nap. Set the alarm for a little, like an hour or two later on Saturday. It's always great to see you, Rob.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything this year.
All right. There goes Rob Husted, head coach for Greenbrier. By the way, ranked number 7 in the state, 13th nationally, finishing up 16-3, 6-0 in region play, and your state champs there for Greenbrier. So it's always great to catch up with him. All right. We're going to kind of turn the page and blend things a little bit. We're kind of drifting in and out of the Open Cup coverage from yesterday. Caught up with Mike Gramajo before the show started because he had to go to work dayside in Orlando. So here is our opposition research post-game edition with Mike from early this morning, talking about what happened last night. Like I said, we're kind of drifting in and out of high school and Open Cup and all the news and things. So here on a Wall Pass Wednesday, we take a big right turn. Talk to Mike about what happened last night in Central Florida with Orlando. So I literally had to put up the largest stop sign humanly possible with you as we started to talk about this before we hit the record button. Yeah. Now go ahead and tell me what you were going to talk about.
Yeah. No, I mean, we spoke, just not even 24 hours ago or so.
Yeah,
and
all right. Yeah.
And you think about it, I don't think nobody was really expecting this game to really be so one-sided. My prediction going into that Atlanta United Orlando City Open Cup game was, there had to have been some type of roster rotation. There really wasn't. Orlando just switched out 2 guys.
Yeah.
So my initial thoughts when I saw that Orlando lineup was, okay, this team is tired. I mean, they just played 72 hours prior. And then I'm like, okay, this is probably going to be either a really ugly game between 2 not so great teams, or this could actually be a game that would probably favor Atlanta, considering they were able to get a result on Saturday. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, I think we were all wrong. I mean, 4 goals in the first half from Orlando. Completely came out of nowhere. I think everyone in press row was a little bit caught off guard as well, just because of the sheer just effectiveness that this team had in the attack. Yeah. And Atlanta basically was punished. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but that's what the Orlando City center back said. David Brecolo said after the game, we wanted to punish them. We wanted to put this game away as soon as possible, and well, they did it. They went into the halftime with a 4-0 result. I mean, 4-0 scoreline, and then Atlanta was able to score, but utter dominance in that first half. And obviously, Orlando City now advances to the semifinal of the Open Cup. And I hate to say it, but Atlanta's misfortunes continues.
No, it was a day for the purple team. So as our Orlando embed, you get this is a forum where you get to say pretty much how you saw it. Don't worry about mincing words. The overall mood It is one where all of the goodwill that was built up over the last 6 weeks and last 6 or 7 matches is gone out the door. And when you have a result like that, where in a rivalry game, you have the team that supposedly had the momentum after Saturday, basically going into your rival's house, and your rival wasn't having none of it. Pick your analogy. Going into you want to go and check your neighbor's fridge, and the neighbor's like, "No, what are you doing?" And you ended up with Brecalo getting the first one, beating Latte Lot to the spot on a header off a corner. Then you end up with Griffin Dorsey doing the exact same thing that he did on the weekend, happening for goal number 2. Literally, you have Griffin Dorsey coming from that, right center, right center mid or whatever, the right back position, and coming in on that angle, turning into that striker in the Perelman system. Same thing happens 2 matches in a row. Dorsey scores to make it 2. And then you end up with, Jaden Hibbert on a poor outlet pass that goes right to Tiago for 3. And then you get the 4th one right before the half. And everybody in the Atlanta United footprint that watched that match that we all watched together. The responses this morning and after the match last night against a rival have not been kind, and understandably so.
Yeah, no, and you kind of saw it in the whole entire first half. I mean, this was an Atlanta side that really gave up possession pretty easly. And, mind you, I think it's fair to assess both teams are not having a great season. But to kind of see a little bit of that willingness more from Orlando, it was surprising. I think in the overall scheme of things, it was just really surprising because, we really thought we were going to see a really ugly game of football. And, for one,
well, you were right, but for the wrong reason, though.
Exactly. I think you kind of just took the words out of my mouth there, because I was just trying to figure out how to muster these words. But yeah, and it's a good result for Orlando now, because they have one more game to go before the World Cup break, albeit now they have to travel to FC Cincinnati, which is usually never really an easy task. But you go into this World Cup break now, whatever happens in Cincinnati, win, lose, or draw, Orlando kind of has somewhat of a basis to kind of, or at least Martin Perelman, the interim head coach, has a basis to kind of build on in that World Cup break, which is something he continues to basically mention either before or after at training. He's like, I'm looking forward to the World Cup break because this is a moment where he can actually prepare the squad and have the squad ready for Griezmann once he fully joins and integrates into the team after the World Cup. So, Orlando was able to get the job done. And what's interesting about this too, this was a quarterfinal match, but for some of the players, they said after the game, this felt more like a final. So it was interesting for them to kind of say that, considering they still have a semifinal to go to before they actually make it to the final. But the fact that they were able to kind of say that the mentality kind of had to shift a little bit 72 hours after, considering they blew a lead against Atlanta on Saturday. Yeah. The fact that they were able to really quickly adapt that mentality kind of speaks. You can kind of credit that and attribute it to the coaching staff, which is something that you can kind of really pin the praise towards, because a lot of these goals are Martin Perelman tactics. Mm-hmm. The set piece, for example, you saw the Davi Brecalo goal. Now that was originally a corner kick, and then they were able to win the second ball, and then that led to the goal. But those are certain tactics that Orlando kind of trains on a day-by-day basis on the training grounds, and Martin Perelman basically just kind of credited that to his assistant coaching staff. But then just everything else when it comes to just being effectiveness in the attack, that's Martin Perelman football for you. It's not really a team that really sits back, which is something we saw many of times in the Oscar Pareja era. But it's still a work in progress. But win lose, as Martin Perelman says, this team is growing, as he says, and sometimes it may not look like that. I mean, someone that just watches these games every week, it's a really inconsistent brand of football. But I would imagine the confidence just kind of strokes up a little bit more now that you're in the semifinal. You can go into this World Cup break feeling a little relieved that you weren't shellacked all the way going into that break. And now it's just full preparation mode. Get Griezmann ready, whether you make some summer signings, or you let players go via trade or transfers. We'll see. But Orlando I think, has a foundation kind of set up. That result and that performance kind of showed a little bit of that as far as where they can go going into that World Cup break.
Yeah, you mentioned the conversations, or at least the gathering around David Brecolo. Who else were you able to listen to last night, including Coach Perelman, about everything that happened? Who else did you visit in the locker room and catch up with when it came to?
Yeah, we spoke with Thiago Souza, the Brazilian under-22 initiative player. He scored 2 goals. It's interesting with him because and Martin Perelman kind of alluded to him. He said it's hard for players from South America to come to Major League Soccer and adapt so quickly. And I guess I go in with the pretext that Martin Perelman was the second team head coach at one point. So he had to deal with a lot of these young South American players. And the team still deals with them too, because a lot of players in the second team with Orlando City, it's a good group of South American players there as well right now. But Martin Perelman, 2 years ago when he was the head coach of Orlando City B, he had to basically kind of receive these South American players that would come into the club, and really his job was to really adapt them. So the fact that Thiago Souza was able to get 2 goals and really put on a good performance, that received a lot of praise from the head coach. It is worth noting the first goal, he was able to tuck the ball under his shirt, and then with the thumb in the mouth, it was easy to assume, but he kind of confirmed it post game that he learned that he's expecting a baby boy. His wife is pregnant, so the first goal for him was obviously a little special, able to kind of reel in that moment for him. And then obviously the second goal was just really what he does best. He's a winger. He's an attacker. And he's doing what he's paid to do. He's an under-22 initiative player, and usually those players are, they're not getting paid DP money, but you are getting paid a good amount of money to do your job. And he was able to get a day's worth of labor in as far as getting 2 goals. So just Martin Perelman, Thiago Souza, and David Brecolo we spoke with. Obviously, a little bit more excitement. We did hear music coming out of the locker room as well. So anytime you hear music coming out of the locker room, you can kind of imagine it's a good time, and it's a good time to celebrate for those players. So now it's off to Cincinnati on Saturday, because that's going to be another task. But I think whatever happens in Cincinnati, I don't think it's going to remiss what this team has kind of been able to kind of build after Oscar Pareja departed the team. I think they have a good basis and foundation now to kind of work on going into this World Cup break shortly after this weekend.
And that's what a lot of folks are looking at. We figured that the initial goal celebration had to do with BOB, and now that you got the independent confirmation that is in fact the case, congratulations to the family. I know that you got to head into work. You got to make sure that the German Shepherd guard dog is okay and up and running. As always, Mike, it's great to catch up with you. Thanks for doing this back-to-back days for the review and the preview, and we will catch up with you soon, my friend. Great to see you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Mike Gramajo, WESH-TV in Orlando. And I think you want, when you're trailing and you're trying to chase a match, you might have won possession. I think they did. It was like 55-45. But, set for Dylan Butler to join us next couple of minutes. And honestly, when you look at last night, between now and Columbus, as the last match before World Cup break, there's a lot to look in the mirror about. And to have that kind of a response after the weekend that you did, going back into that same building, pretty much the same lineup from Orlando City, and coming out of there with the result that you did, even after the first 45 minutes. Like I said, a lot of folks need to look at themselves in the mirror. And that's where we bring in Dylan Butler to start off hour number 2. And were you on the desk last night, sir?
I was not. I was watching a historic Knickerbockers comeback.
Yes, that is absolutely true. A lot of folks, though, are looking at the Western Conference and sitting there and saying, this Eastern Conference thing, Western Conference is really the championship, really. That needs to be for the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Just go ahead and give the winner of the Western Conference the LOB, and this Eastern Conference stuff, we don't need to focus on.
I don't know. Jalen Brunson looked pretty good last night.
Yes, when you get to have those, when you get to have the chaos that was at the end of regulation, and then you have the comeback that you had completed in overtime. No, it's this time of year is always fun.
I admit, listen, we didn't talk Knicks last week, but I was legit concerned, right? Like, to have that many days off, right? And then you play a team that has momentum, and like, you're always concerned, like, how much is too much of a layoff? Like, what's the right amount where you get your batteries recharged, but you're still in that same kind of rhythm? And basketball, especially, I think of the sports, it's such a rhythm sport. And they were out of it, and I was like, oh man, this rust, like, how can we please end this other series like quickly? I don't care who the Knicks play, let's just play. And I mean, I was unfortunately saying, this is exactly what I texted my cousin. I'm like, this is exactly what I was worried about through 3 quarters, right? Or 3.5 quarters, I guess. And then they found their rhythm late. So
that is absolutely true. They did that. And so you end up on the other side, Knicks fans, top of the world, ma. and so Knicks get that shake off the rust and get that win. We had 2 of the 4 Open Cup matches last night. The other 2 today.
I'll be on tonight, by the way.
Okay, and so we will look at all 4 in a relative sense. But after, and we caught up with Mike Gramajo from WESH-TV in Orlando before you came on, and to break down everything, it was okay. So Atlanta on the weekend, they were fairly dominant when it came to state of play. They just hadn't gotten the goal. They get the goal from Jay Fortune in the 86th, and then they tie it. And so you're thinking, okay, yes, it was an opportunity where Atlanta United feels like they left 2 points on the table, just got the one on the draw. And so you're thinking, okay, Orlando's gassed. We were asserting our will on them. It should be that same way on Tuesday. Martin Perelman comes up pretty much with the same lineup, with the exception of, I think, 2 changes, one of them being Javier Otero in goal. Atlanta United trots out pretty much the same lineup. And Orlando City basically did the Dikembe Mutombo finger wag to Atlanta United, and 4 goals in the first 45, and it could have been more if it hadn't been for 5 Jaden Hibbert saves in the first half. And Orlando City, who a lot of folks thought, man, they ran themselves into the ground. They did not show any of that fatigue from the weekend, and they bounced Atlanta United in the quarters, and it wasn't that close.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw some highlights, which obviously, only tell a portion of that story that you just told. But this is why I don't recommend wagering on MLS, because
I don't recommend wagering in general, but
because you think, you look at trends and you think, and you see this matchup on the week, and none of it makes sense, right? So, but yeah, no, Orlando, a dominant performance. And, I'm always intrigued by this competition for teams that have really struggled in the year. Like, it feels like it's sort of like they're not make up for the season, right? But like their get right maybe for the fans, or maybe, you know, again, the opportunity to get into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But you know, you see teams, especially obviously by this point, you know, put all their eggs into the basket of going for it, right? Like early on, you know, you rotate your roster when you're playing, you know, name your lower level team, and you know, hope that your reserves can get the job done. And then obviously once you get to this, which is now all MLS,
Yeah.
you know, you kind of, you know, put your main guys out there. So, and we kind of have that. I feel like, you know, St. Louis is in a similar boat, right? Like struggling, obviously, in the regular season. Should Columbus win tonight? Obviously, that's a similar angle for them. So, but too, this is such a unique year where, and we're seeing it, I think, with these coaching changes, is like when you've got such a break like this, you know, like you've got a tremendous opportunity to sort of reset, and you're dealing with a window that's open, right?
Yeah.
Transfer market wise. So, you know, you could bring in a coach, and, you know, after a certain amount of time where everybody's, you know, out of the training facility for the World Cup, you know, get everybody back and get it, you know, essentially have a preseason with, you know, your new head coach or with your new signings. And it, you know, it feels like the restart will almost be like a new season.
Yeah. And you look at Orlando with that opportunity heading in. Obviously, now they're in a semifinal, and they get to go to either NYC or Columbus, the winner of the eastern half of what's happening tonight. And they had already started their reset, letting Oscar Pareja go, bringing Martin Perelman up as your caretaker manager. And Perelman, with his style of chaos, hashtag, I feel like Robert Downey Jr. there, style of chaos, hashtag, where you're having players, and we always talk about formations as a loose construct anyway, but literally for Martin Perelman, that is the case. It literally is like, okay, whistle blows, and then I need Griffin Dorsey. Okay, you're my right back. I need you marauding in as a striker, and I need you poaching and all these kinds of things. And it works, and it confuses folks. And Laurent Courtois is going to be the same way in Columbus. And, you know, NYC, they're going to be facing Laurent Courtois and the Band of Chaos tonight, first time out of the block. So you get those opportunities to have those reset chances in an Open Cup tournament, or, as you say, if you just get to the break and it's just like, all right, let's just get to the break, and then we can reset. I can pretty much guarantee you that where Atlanta United is concerned, the group that you are going to see, or that you saw last night in Orlando, and the group that you will see in Columbus on Sunday, is not going to be the same group that you will see on the flip side of this for the stretch run once the World Cup is over. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
So it is that opportunity, and it gives you that 7-week window to kind of look at yourself in the mirror and go, all right, we get the opportunity for a reset here. Let's get to boogieing and figure things out. I'm intrigued as to how many teams will take advantage of this window to rest, how many will take it to reset, and what those resets will look like. You know, is it going to be like is it going to be like trade deadline day in the National Hockey League, you know, where you're on the clock and you're waiting, and then you have all these things happen. And I'm interested from a league-wide perspective to see who resets and who just rests and sits tight heading into that stretch run on the flip side when we get out of this in late July.
Yeah, and to what extent? I think this is, again, it's such a unique opportunity that we've never seen, right, in this league before, that I think it's I think the sporting directors and the people who are those decision makers will find out kind of who's who in that time frame, right? Like who's the best GM, who's the best, you know, coaching staff. You know, we're gonna find out a lot, I think, about teams and their backroom staff. I think in that time, because I don't think what you proposed, though. I mean, I don't I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive. I think you can get the rest, and you could also reset at the same time. And you'd imagine for teams that are struggling, they've already sort of have the outline of what that will look like ahead of this, right? So,
and I'm interested in the stages of rebuild. Who's going to tinker, and who's going to sit there and go, nope. Nope, I don't like what's in the closet. And you just it's like the old,
we're taking all of this out.
Yeah. Do you see it's like, you see the open door to the closet is what's facing the camera. And then you just kind of see somebody with arms throwing clothes out the back.
We're going to hire a dumpster.
Yeah.
Put it in the driveway.
Yeah. Literally. It's like, okay, who's got pods and who's got the Dempsey dumpster and, and what's going to Goodwill and that kind of a thing. I'm interested in the layers of all of this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, with Atlanta, especially after what happened last night, you literally are wondering, okay, how much turnover there is going to be and what it's going to look like. So that's probably the gazillion-dollar question, because then you've got to worry about your cap, you've got to worry about your Garber bucks, you've got to that's the thing, is it can't just be we're going to blow this up and then completely and totally restart it.
Right.
If you're going to try to bring in high-priced dudes, you got to get rid of high-priced dudes, or that's the thing, is that you've got to monitor your Garber bucks and all of this. It can't just be, we're going to blow it up and we're going to bring in all this talent, and we're going to bring in Dave Winfield, we're going to sign him to a contract, and Catfish Hunter, and all. You can't do that right now in Major League Soccer until you add the fourth DP, or if you're just Messi and friends and you just kind of sit there and go, what rule, what? You mentioned the other side. I didn't have Ben Lunt on my bingo card, making saves, making 2 saves in the PKs, and sending St. Louis City onto the next round either. So, but that's you get these kinds of heroes, whether it's the NCAA tournament. We're looking at the 13s and the 14s that get their moments. The fourth line guy that scores a goal in overtime. Ben Lunt was not on the bingo card, and St. Louis City makes their way into the Final Four with their win last night.
Yeah,
which did not have that.
No, nor did I have St. Louis City as, what are we now, 180 minutes away from possibly competing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
And then going after what happens tonight, the cruelty of the disco sometimes for me. Maxi Morales out for the year, and then Disco comes at him with an envelope for mass confrontation. I was like, really, man?
Check. Like, here's the check.
It's like, really, dude? It's like, I'm out for the year, and then you hand me the DHL envelope from the league office on the disciplinary committee. I was like, the cruel irony that was attached to that. Maxi Morales proved in NYC's dynamic for Pascal Janssen that he had a place, and he was that persistent troublemaker that was there. When you look at NYC now without him, what do you see other than missing a massive troublemaker and somebody that you had to account for, and I think was probably underestimated coming into this year, considering that he is 702 years old. Everybody's like, oh, Maxi Morales, why would you re-sign him? And he turned into, once again, a certifiable pain in the you-know-what. Now that NYC doesn't have him, what kind of an impact is that?
Well, he's not just, a pain in the you-know-what. He's a guy who stirred the drink, really. He stirred up the trouble, but he also stirred up the drink for NYCFC. You look at the last round of this competition, right? What was it? 3 goals, right? I think they scored against Red Bull. All of them off of his set piece goal, all of his corners. So still a terrific facilitator. And to your point, at approximately 702 years old, he look at the numbers that he's put up this year in terms of minutes. Like, he started every game. He's played almost every minute. So you lose a ton in of industry in your midfield by losing a Maxi Morales. Now, it's not the first time, unfortunately, that this has happened to him and to the club. I refer back to the aforementioned break that they have now.
Yeah.
Not that there's ever a good time to lose a club legend.
Yeah.
But now you weren't necessarily looking at that on your whiteboard, right? So now you go, all right, let's reset. We were talking about a number 9 here and trying to figure out what happens with Alonso Martinez. Well, now let's figure out the Maxi Morales situation. Let's what 10s are out there that we can get, or who's the engine in the midfield we can get. So in that sense, I guess the timing, as bad of a situation as it is actually pretty good for NYCFC.
Yeah, and you get to kind of sort things out. Then the other end of Hudson River is the Red Bull equation in all of this, and I'm still, and this might be just because it's kids, and we know that kids can be all over the place. I just don't know what version of the Baby Bulls we're going to get from week to week, and you get to see Ruvalcaba, and you get to see all of the the other youngins that are here, and it's like this. But I guess with youngins, it's going to be like this, and it's just up to Michael Bradley to make sure that you ride that wave and hang on as best you can, and make sure that your ankle bracelet is attached to the surfboard, so when you hit that wave and you're off the surfboard, that you still are attached to the surfboard on the way back down.
Or as I told my kid last night, like, listen, we could take the scooter around the neighborhood, but we're the helmet goes on, right? Mm-hmm. So like you got to make sure. But listen, of the ups and downs that you referenced, the most consistent is Jeremy Hall, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's a guy who has delivered week after week, game after game. The numbers are amazing, right? Has a hat trick the week before. And in that mass confrontation that you referenced, he was right in the middle of it. Like he was not caring, right? Like he was not giving an ish. Like he was going at it, right? Like, which you love to see from someone that young too. So
yeah, I mean, you've got Mehmeti, Ruvalcaba, you've got Hall, Cade Cowell seems to have found a home, and you combine that with with Emil Forsberg, and they're the pieces that are there. And one of the folks that is kind of sitting in all of this is one of your massive signings in Maxim Choupo-Moting, and you're not. It's like you signed him to all this money, and you're getting the Baby Bulls are the ones that are getting all the output, and you're kind of looking at it and go, okay, yeah, we're glad you're here, conjunction, comma, but, and so. You're finding it in places that you wanted to find it maybe in a year or two, but they're coming up early and they're giving you what you're looking for out of the Baby Bulls that have come up from Red Bulls too.
And I think maybe that's a big question for them after during the World Cup break is what do we do with the Choupo-Moting, right? Like, yes, he's on their contract. Is there a way to figure him out into this system with the Baby Bulls at the same time? I don't know. That is a tough question for them right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the standings in the East, and obviously, we'll do this next time you're with us, and since we'll be in the break at that point. But you look at the standings, and at the bottom, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Columbus. You're used to seeing CF Montreal down there. They are, but they're not. I mean, Philadelphia's only won once in their first 14, which is crazy to think about. And I'm wondering what the wheels are in Philly right now. Because, and I mean, I don't know if it's a feature or a bug where Bradley Carnell is concerned. Because you look at his time in St. Louis, he comes in the league. First year's great. First time through the batting order, people can't get him figured out. Second time the batting order comes through, they figured out that If it's a 2-0 count, he's going to try to go fastball outside corner, and you just go the other way with it, and you get on base and you start a rally. Same thing in Philly. Second time through the batting order in St. Louis, he got found out. Pfannenstiel, maybe stole another Penguin or something, and then decided to, send Bradley Carnell on his way. Goes to Philly, first year in Philly, has the big run, as a Jim Curtin adjacent philosophy. Second time through the batting order in Philly, he gets found out, and they've only won once in their first 14 this year. That's crazy to think about, that Philly is where they are, but we've seen this with Bradley Carnell second time around, though.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not you see some of these managers, and while you were saying that, I was thinking in my head of like my first thought actually was was John Tortorella, who his is not a 1 year, but like usually he's not for the longevity with a team.
Yeah,
like his style wears off pretty quickly. Not that quickly, but you think of a Jose Mourinho, right? Same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I was going to mention Mourinho, but you beat me to it. Yeah,
like a 2-3 year thing for him, I guess, usually, right?
Yeah, Bielsa 2+.
Yeah, but not 1.
Yeah,
like that's like he's a closer. Like he's like Mariano. Like he comes in for 1 season, we're great, and I'm out. Then he pulls a Costanza, or like leaves the conference room.
Yes, but they lock him out of his office, and he finds another way in. It's just to see Columbus at the bottom, and they've gotten rid of Henrik Rudstrom, and so they're in transition. And Philadelphia, you're wondering, and with Atlanta, I think it's going to be players that will be transitioned. So you're looking at those bottom 3 that are all big names in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah,
Columbus coaching transition, Atlanta probably players transition, and then Philadelphia transition question mark when it comes to what they're going to look like, and they're not going to really break the bank and do it. It's going to be done in their economical way. And like I said, we talk about intrigue. Philly, for me, is intrigue in this break because of how do you address this, especially if you've won if you lose this weekend, you've only won one of your first 15. How do you address it in the 7-week gap? And then where do you go from here? Are you waiting for that gap to make a big decision? I wonder how many other teams are like that too. So that's
and their match is at Miami.
Yeah. So big thumbs up for you there. I mean, it's just I've got a lot of questions on a lot of different fronts with everybody showing up here with the match week that's coming up here. For
what I'm intrigued with is there's guys who have been out of the coaching a little bit. Like you mentioned Curtin, right? He's one. Mm-hmm. Nancy, I think, is an intriguing guy because this league has been his home for many years.
True.
He's obviously had great success here. Does he go to one of these?
Does he come? Yeah. Does he come back?
Yeah.
Or does he go or does he wait until the season is officially over in France and try to see if there's a Ligue 1 opening, and he gets the opportunity to go home?
Yeah, and I wonder too with some of these national teams, like who becomes available there, like where will MLS positions or vacancies be for those possible candidates?
So then after the World Cup, are you going BJ Callahan as your leader in the clubhouse for the USMNT?
I don't know. So then where does Potch go?
That's what I'm saying.
LAFC?
Well, I mean, if he goes back to Europe, if he goes back to Europe for another gig, there'll be a high profile gig that will open up that we don't know, that they'll sit there and they'll go after the World Cup. Hey, Potch, you want to come over? And he'll be like, yeah. And then they'll create an opening. Then Pochettino will wander in and see what's up there overseas. I do not anticipate a second cycle with Mauricio Pochettino. No. This weekend, what are you looking forward to when you look at the schedule this weekend, and what is circled for you after we get through the Colorado, San Jose, Columbus, NYC matches tonight. Austin lets go of Nico Estevez and Rodo Borrell. That's another one that you're like, okay, you lose twice to Sporting, which was a shock. And then you had the loss to San Diego, and Anthony Precourt was like, nope, we're done. And you're the leadoff game. So Austin for me is going to be one that you look at.
I like this Minnesota Salt Lake game.
Yeah. I mean, the Hamas experiment did not work. And I still think that he was probably fighting injuries and recovery more than they were leading on. But he is gone and out the door. RSL, with all of their firepower, goes to Minnesota. I like that one. What version of New England do we get? They're great at home. Marko Mitrovic has been doing really well with what we've seen out of New England. Then you go down the line. I mean, Kansas City. What version of Red Bulls do we get when they go and play Sporting? That to me is another one. I'm like, okay.
I think Nashville NYC is an interesting one.
Yes, at Geodis, you've got that one. San Diego Vancouver toward the end of the line on Saturday. And
you can't pass over Colorado Dallas because we don't know what will happen in a goal celebration now. Yes,
that is absolutely true with Stone Cold Sam Sarver and the shotgunning of and if Modelo has not already reached out to Sam Sarver after the goal celebration and then the subsequent posting from a 7-Eleven on his Instagram account, where he has, I believe, 4 6-pack bottles of Modelo. And literally, it's on his Instagram, and he's like this. And he's ready to go. If Modelo hasn't already capitalized on this, then that is an error on Modelo's part.
He is a breath of fresh air.
Yes, and he's got the 80s hairline to do it too. He's got.
I will say it did remind me of. I'm going to go in the way back machine here.
Sure.
So the New York club went from Metro Stars to Red Bulls, right? So the year that I think it was the year they became Red Bulls. DC and Red Bull were still at that time like a really big rivalry. It was pre NYCFC. So they had a game at Giant Stadium early-ish in the season. Yours truly up in the, what is that, like a 12th floor press box up there in Giant Stadium, like very high up from the action.
Yes.
So DC with the Jersey boy on their team, Aleko Eskandarian. So whose dad obviously was a star at with the Cosmos at Giant Stadium. So he comes back to Jersey, scores a goal, runs to the sideline, grabs a Red Bull, drinks it, and then spits it out.
Oh, yeah.
Which was epic in terms of a celebration. He did get fined for that, by the way.
Oh, come on.
But that's what that reminded me of.
Yes, as it should. Like I said, Stone Cold Sam Sarver. So are you on the desk tonight?
I am on the desk tonight. I'm on the desk Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. As always, we will be keeping an eye on things. Next time you visit, we will be in the break for
break zone.
Yeah, so we were in the break zone. At Dylan_Butler on the 280 at MLSsoccer.com. As always, my friend, it's great to see you. Great to catch up and find out what's going on in your brain when it comes to Open Cup and MLS and all points in between on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll catch up with you at the breaking point next time around.
All right, buddy.
Be good. Dylan Butler. It's always good to have Dylan to kick off hour number 2. And now we careen back into the road of life when it comes to the Red Clay wrap-ups and recaps. And for this one, I looked at the numbers, and I looked at the numbers, and the current national ranking has this team in particular at the top in the state of Georgia, all classification, and the top nationally all classification. And for this, we go to Cumming, Georgia, and we get to catch up with what's going on with West Forsyth and our friend Jason Galt. You could have hydrated during the segment. That's perfectly fine. You didn't have to hide the water, Jason.
Yeah, I forgot my camera was on. So I see me drinking right now. But
Look, dude. I've got this on camera all during 2.5 hours. It's all good. We believe in proper hydration for our guests and for hosts.
I'm telling you what, man. I invested in these metal water bottles.
Yeah.
I love them. Fit perfect in the car, and yeah, they're good.
I will. And Jason recommends the Buc-ee's 30-ounce the hot drink thermos because it keeps everything hot forever. So Jason goes to that same direction for the hot water keepers. You go into Buc-ee's, and he says, "Yep, for the entire day." If I had told you, if I had not teased you coming in by saying top-ranked team nationally, top-ranked team in the state of Georgia, and told you that you are now listed as the top-ranked team in the state of Georgia and the top-ranked team nationally, what would you have said?
I mean, I wouldn't have believed it just because of that loss we had early, in the middle of the season. But we'll take it. We'll take it. It's a pretty special group. I mean, we got some very talented players in this team, and I like to jokingly say it's all coaching, but we know it's the exact opposite of that. Definitely not the coaching. We got some phenomenal players. So,
what did you learn about yourself this season specifically as a coach for this roster?
Because I've talked to you before about this. Every year is different. Every year I adjust the formation. What we ran this year, 4-2-4 is what I like. That's the formation I like the most. But the last 2 years we ran a 3-5-2 because of the personnel that I had. And then going into the season, I felt like we had a chance to be pretty good, but I knew that we had to stay healthy because we had a very small team. And if you watch the game, it's kind of funny. You'll see Walton's bench. They might have had 30 girls over there, and you look at our bench, and we got 4 subs.
Yeah,
literally 4 subs. So just I knew we had a chance just because of the talent level, and luckily, God bless us with some injury-free soccer this year, and we were able to finish the end healthy and take care of business.
How hard is that, considering you've got a 16-person roster? How hard is that to navigate, knowing your own expectations, how good you think you're going to be, and still only having that short bench? How hard is that to navigate as a coach?
It was really hard this year, and it's hard every year because they're not just – I can control what happens at West as far as when we practice. I have Wednesdays off, that kind of stuff. But these girls are still, during the season, they're practicing their clubs every once in a while. They're going to ID camps. I mean, I had girls going to LSU. So Carson Murray, who had the game winner, she goes to LSU for an ID camp the weekend before we play Brookwood. Yeah. So it might have been that week. There was somewhere I was worried about her getting back for the game. And luckily she got back. I told the dad, I told Troy, I said, listen, it's only an 8-hour drive. If something happens to the flight, you can get in the car and drive halfway of the night, and find a way. But they got back. But those are the variables that I have no control over. I mean, so I can control stuff we do to make sure we don't have injuries. But yeah, and all the girls have their private coaches. They work with them, and I can preach all I want. Hey, take it easy. But they're going to do it. I can't control them, But so it's, to answer your question, it's a tough road to navigate because there's a lot of moving parts that I don't have control over. So,
I mean, national team call-ups, going from one end of the planet to the other and missing out on playoff games and things like that. How do you keep your wits about you with expectations combined with success, losing players because of external things and demands that would help them with their careers academically, athletically, whatever? How do you keep your wits about you and control the controllables? How does that happen?
That's a great question. Honestly, it comes with experience and time. I've been coaching high school sports this is like year 29, year 30. I've been there for a long time. And as a young coach Galt, a lot of the stuff that comes up out of stressed about, and I'd have been this and that, just but now you just gotta embrace it, and you celebrate some of the stuff. Like Alicia going and playing for the Columbia national team. I told her parents, if she gets back, great, but this is awesome for her. We're happy, and it's something that as a more mature coach like I am now, you just got to embrace that stuff and find the joy rather than find how it's going to negatively affect your team, because you have no control over it. That's the one thing as you get older, you realize, don't worry about the stuff you can't control, and just, find positives in everything. And I think that's really the mindset. I'm definitely a glass half full type guy. I've always been that way as a coach. So I don't stress about stuff like when you're young and you have a lot of adrenaline and testosterone and and you think you know it all and it's going to be my way or the highway. Yeah, there's some possible issues, but now it's just like, you go with the flow. We have these expectations. The girls know the expectations as far as how we're ranked in the state and the nation, that kind of stuff. We embrace it. We embrace it and try to enjoy it.
Where is the trophy, by the way?
I just put it in Coach Phipp's office yesterday. So yeah, it's funny. After the state championship, I never take the trophy home. I let the girls say, "Girls, just make sure I get it back." So that day, like one night or 1 year, one of my players had it and spent the night at her house and took pictures of in her with a pillow and stuff. And they just it's theirs. They earned it. I'm just a facilitator. I'm just the manager. But yeah, they enjoy it. They just bring it back. Don't lose it. And they never lose it. So it's worked out.
I was wondering if it was a Stanley Cup thing for you where everybody gets their moment with it and then it comes back and then it either stays with you or it goes to Brett and goes in Brett Phipp's office, or it's, shining like 4 separate spotlights when you go walking in the front door of the high school. I didn't know what the situation was.
Yeah, we got a trophy. We got a trophy case for him. It was us and our gymnastics team were tied for 3 championships apiece. And so now we have 4. So we kind of lead the pack in the school. But tell you what, our girls lacrosse, man, they're special. They back-to-back state champions, and I don't see them not winning it for years. They finally got over the hump and beat Milton this year. So I think they should be national champions. Hopefully they will be. I think they're ranked number 2 right now, but they should, because they beat state championship teams in Florida and up north. But they're going to catch up. They're a quality team. So me and Coach Kiefer have a little competition going.
When it comes to the program in and of itself, how would you best describe how it has grown and evolved since you've been there? How has the program and the sport grown there in the West Forsyth community since you were head coach?
So my first year, that was probably 9 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. But I think we made the second round of the playoffs. They'd actually played for a state championship in 2016. So they've always had quality players here. But when I took over, we had some good players, and we played well. But for me, you got to remember, I was a soccer coach and a football coach for a long time, and then when I became a head football coach, I stopped coaching soccer. So I went a 10-year period of not thinking about soccer as far as from the coaching side of it, even though I'd done it, forever. And then when I got back into it, the first year for me was kind of remembering a lot of the stuff that I learned as a coach and, kind of worked out in my mind as far as philosophies, kind of getting back into that stuff. But so went that first year and, we're kind of building, and I went through some coaching changes and this and that, and then COVID happened. And that COVID year, we were actually having a really good year. We beat Lambert for the first time in forever. So we were on track to have a pretty good season. And then, of course, we were all off. We came back, and then that's when the DA program shut down. And then I would argue that year, I guess it was 21, across the state of Georgia was probably the best competition across the state, because all these DA players all played high school in that 1 year. Now you still have a lot of that same level players are still playing high school, but I think that year because everybody was getting out of COVID, they're being shut down, and like, we're going to play soccer. So we had a really, really talented team that year, and that was kind of the springboard for us. And once that happened, the expectation was set, and the quality of player has just increased as the years have gone by. Every year my first couple of years I had 1 or 2 freshmen maybe make it. Last year I had 6 freshmen make it. This year I had 3 freshmen make it. So that means, and I don't let a freshman make the team unless they're actually going to start and play a bunch.
Yeah.
And so the level of player has definitely gone up. And we just have a standard now. We have an expectation.
So then, in your mind, what's the most important thing about high school soccer here in Georgia?
The most important thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a tough question. Wow. I think it varies for every school. Honestly, it varies for every sport and for every coach and for every team, because you might be taking over a program where you're trying to have a winning record for the first time, and the things you do there, that are important to that team and that program are going to be a lot different than what is important to my program, because we're at the national level now. We're not just talking about state championships, we're talking about national championships. So I think it varies. I think ultimately though, you want these girls to have a great experience.
Yeah.
I told you about the breakdown fun, how do you spell fun? We have fun. I think that's why I probably won't go back to coaching football, because when you're a football coach, you got to kind of be a you know what.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. I don't like being that way. I like being the fun guy. So with girls soccer, I can have fun at practice and joke and have a good time, and the girls respond. I think if you take it too serious, if you try to treat them like boys, and that's your format of coaching with girls, I think it's unsuccessful. So that's my take.
And for those that may not know, your head coaching career in the FOOTB ALL was North Forsyth and Dutchtown.
Dutchtown, yes, sir.
So it went like Dutchtown, North Forsyth, and then you've got your soccer run.
Yes, came to West. Yep.
Yep. Is there one thing that you would change or augment, update, change about high school soccer in the state?
Oh, that's a tough question. It used to be the PK thing. I had this crazy idea about, because I hate, PKs. It's exciting to watch. Don't get me wrong. A lot of soccer, enthusiasts, love PKs. But I'm like, if we're going to go to overtime, how about let's remove a player? Like, let's make it 10v10 for 5 minutes, and then 9v9 for 5 minutes, and 8v8 for 5, and just kind of like get down at that. That's kind of crazy. It would never happen. But that was some random thoughts that I had years ago. Just because, if you lose in PKs, that's just heartbreaking. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
But change-wise, I've never understood this for Georgia high school, and I'm sure they have some logic behind it, but our first and second round games are a week apart.
Yeah.
And then our third and our fourth round games are 3 days apart.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some thinking, maybe they just have the logic that I don't understand, but to me, it makes more sense to have that first and second round game kind of one after another, and then give a little more time to kind of get ready for the big game. So I know it's above my pay grade, but that's just something I've kind of wondered kind of out loud.
Yeah,
so.
We see that in the National Hockey League where they go 3-on-3 for overtime. Going from 5 to 5 to 3-on-3. My last question for you.
Yes, sir.
Benjamin Parker from Savannah Arts coming up around the corner. With this World Cup thing that's happening, less than 30 days away, what would you like to see when it comes to the impact and the legacy of this World Cup coming up? What would you like that to be?
Oh, man, impact and legacy. I love watching the World Cup, first of all. I sit at my house just every day just watching games. It's just, even though the boys' game is much different than the girls' game, I still love watching World Cup. Just create that excitement again. I think every time the World Cup comes around, I think there's a new invigoration in America, for the young people to start getting into soccer. And just keep growing the sport. It's a great sport. I played it my whole life. I love coaching it. It's a lot of fun. I mean, and I think the World Cup opens a lot of people's eyes to what a great sport it is. Because in America, I mean, it's like you're football, you're basketball, you're baseball. And I remember when I was a young coach, a lot of the older coaches, they called it the communist sport. You coach that communist sport, soccer.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh, the old timers. Oh yeah, they did not like soccer. Yeah, when it first. But now, yeah, I think it's grown since I've been in high school. It's definitely a much bigger sport, and I think every time we have a World Cup, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So,
as always, my friend, it's great to see you. Thanks for being a great ambassador and having a program that is a great ambassador for the sport. It's always great to catch up with you and find out how things are there at West Forsyth. Congratulations! I'm glad that the trophy is in a hermetically sealed case where
airtight. Oh yeah,
airtight alarms and the whole thing. We'll be catching up before you know it, my friend. Great to see you.
Thank you, John. See you, man.
There he goes, Jason Galt, the head coach at West Forsyth. And through the magic of the hot change, now we go to Savannah and catch up with the head coach at SAA. That would be Savannah Arts Academy, where we catch up with our friend Benjamin Parker. Ben, good morning. How are you, sir? It's like I saw him and then he disappeared. Ben, you got your ears on.
There we go.
There it is.
Yep.
There it is. So my first question for you, Ben, where is the trophy? Oh goodness, it's going to be one of those days. Okay, so we got to tell Ben. What is it? What did they say? It is. So we got to do the. Streaming, we got to go Android, Chrome, iOS, Safari. We got to do those things. Okay, so really quickly. Okay, Ben, what kind of phone are you using? Ben, what kind of phone you have?
Can you hear me?
Yes. What kind of phone do you
I
have?
have an iPhone, but I've
Okay. Are you on the
iPhone.
Wi-Fi there? Yeah. Okay. So are you on the Wi-Fi
Yes,
there?
I am. That might be,
Okay.
yeah, that might be the problem. But
Well, no. If you got an iPhone, then go in on Safari if you have problems. So on the Wi-Fi and on Safari. So if you dump out again, come in through Safari and use the Wi-Fi. So that's what they're telling me when we have these when we have all these freezes and dump outs. I just wanted to let you know.
okay, that's what
So
I've
where is
done.
yeah. Okay, cool. You're good. I've got you so far. So I'm hoping that the cement that you might be in is the problem. So we'll keep it there. Where, sir, is the trophy?
The trophy right now is actually buckled into the back seat of my truck.
Nice.
So yeah, we have a banquet later on, and I wanted to transport it nice and safely. So that's where it is.
Did you lose track of it? Has it been in your sight the whole time? How has its status been?
It has not been in my sight the whole time, but it's been pretty close. I let the guys take it to the cafeteria for lunches last week when we got back, and I took it this past weekend to the Savannah area high school all-star game. Got recognized there, so I had it at my house this past weekend, and I brought it back, and now I'm taking it to the banquet.
What does it mean, do you think, for the Savannah area for you and Justin to be able to show off that trophy?
It means a lot. I've mentioned this when we talked earlier, but the amount of support that I've received from other coaches in Savannah, just other people in the soccer community, has been tremendous. Obviously, the support from the school has been amazing as well, and just the greater, you know, group that I've had in terms of players I've had in the past, coaches I've coached with, friends I've made. It's made a huge impact.
You mentioned that impact in the community. What has it been like since you came in as a head coach? What has the growth been like, and what has the response been like? What has it been like since day one to now when it comes to the growth and the acceptance of the program?
Well, I was the fourth coach in 4 years when I came in.
Mhm.
But before that, there had been a coach that had been pretty, I think he'd been there like 7 or 8 years. He's the girls' coach at Savannah Arts now, Dane Williams. Fantastic, fantastic coach. So he had been the coach. So I inherited a program that had a lot of previous success, but was kind of in a little bit of a transition. And I kind of had to build a lot of it from the ground up.
Mhm.
But the support from Dane Williams, who's like I said, the girls' coach and head coach of the boys, has been consistent, fantastic from the get go. He has absolutely helped me out in so many ways in terms of not just telling me, you know, the way things should be, the way they were before, but also just providing support in terms of scheduling and all that kind of stuff.
I was going to say, what did you learn about yourself this year?
I learned that I can operate at significantly more fatigue than I realized I could previously.
Yeah.
And that's a lot because I have 2 children. So I learned to believe in a group at a higher level, even though maybe I looked at us on paper and watched film and didn't think we were necessarily the better team in terms of physical strength, speed, skill, tactics. But when we put it all together and we play as a team, I learned to believe that we could beat anybody.
So, when you've looked at this group of seniors, I think it's 6 seniors for you on the roster this year, if my math is right.
That's correct.
When you look at this group of seniors, what sticks in your head about them as a group?
And they've just come so far. They've really improved. They were a talented group when I got them as freshmen. There were 3 of them that I looked at and thought, all right, these guys are going to be able to contribute when they finally have facial hair and grow up a little bit. So this group, they are just incredibly dedicated. They've been part of the program for 4 years, 5 of them. One of them that is only his first year that he played, and he helped a ton. So they're just a really good group of kids. They're good leaders. 2 of them were captains this year. They were captains as juniors as well. So that is going to leave a huge void in terms of leadership. But great group.
When you think about, I guess the program in and of itself, asking how the sport has grown there. You mentioned that your predecessors and all of that. When I talk about and when I mention high school soccer in the state of Georgia, what do you think the most important thing is when it comes to high school soccer here in the state?
Yeah, high school soccer it has a magical place in my mind from when I played myself. I just feel like soccer is in a interesting spot in the United States. It's debated a lot whether school soccer is good for development or club soccer, pay to play versus, doing the school model. To me, high school soccer is the closest thing I ever came to being a professional athlete. And as a athlete, that was very, very important. It played a huge role in my high school years and played a huge role in me becoming who I am, not only as a coach, but as a person. I feel like there's like a real meritocracy element to it, right? No one is paying, no one is saying, hey, I'm dropping all this money for this club team. I know my son might not or daughter might not be the best player, but they're going to play some. So I feel like in school sports, there's a true meritocracy to it. You have to earn your time. You have to earn your keep. And having a team that is based on competition and based on what are you able to provide and what are you able to contribute to the team is going to translate to your time on the field. That to me is huge. And high school soccer has grown a ton since I played, but it was great competition when I played as well, 20
Where'd you go
plus
to
years
school?
ago.
I was gonna say, where'd you go to school?
I went to Parkview, Lilburn.
Okay. So you know what it meant to Gwinnett County. You know about Coach Clinette. All of that, that fabric and fiber. You know about Gwinnett County and what it meant. Five Forks, Trickham, on the whole deal, huh?
Right. Yeah, actually Clinette was after me. I played for Carl Bostic.
Okay,
So
but I mean,
yeah,
you know the impact, and you know what it means to see it grow to where it is right now.
absolutely. I do.
If you could change one thing, what would it be?
About high school soccer?
In the state of Georgia, what would it be?
Uh no more shootouts, man. Unless it's in the tournament. You cannot tell me that you can't assess a point value in a computer program for a draw. This game that we love, sometimes we play 80 minutes or 100 and we're just level. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just to sign a point. We were 6 shootouts this year. So I just feel like, and that's like a new thing. I mean, we had draws a couple years ago, it felt like. So that would be my recommendation, unless it is a region championship or region tournament or the state tournament. I think ties are okay.
Okay. No, you will not get a counterpoint from me on that. I dig that as well, especially in the regular season. You don't have to play another 20 and go to a shootout or go straight to a shootout in a non-region or anything like that. So, having grown up around the game as much as you have, in a hotbed that has been an anchor for the sport in Gwinnett County, and now with you and Islands as state champs and what we're seeing on the coast, and it continues to grow there. With the World Cup coming, in less than a month. What do you want to see when it comes to impact and legacy of the tournament when it goes away, when it's here, and then it leaves in late July?
I just hope it brings people together. I hope it brings communities together to watch great games. Obviously, I hope the U.S. can get out of their group, maybe make a quarterfinal run. I want to see the restaurants full of people, showing up on a Tuesday afternoon to watch the U.S. men's national team play. Those are things that I hope to see, that it brings people together and that it fosters a sense of community around the game of soccer. I feel like the game in general is growing at a healthy rate. The next thing we need to do is figure out this whole pay to play versus school ball versus whatever. We need to get on the same page. I don't know who in the world is going to be able to figure that out, but I don't think the World Cup can do any harm in that regard.
No doubt. As always, we can't thank you enough for answering the bell when I send out emails at really late hours and go, hey, can you do a quick turn and sit in your car and do an interview? Can't thank you enough for all of this, and congratulations and safe travel and transport with that trophy. Do you have your gear and your rings all figured out yet?
I was looking at rings today, so we got to get some shirts made too. I got region champion t-shirts made for the banquet.
Okay.
I should have, I guess, believed a little bit more, but at
Look,
that point in time, that's the first region championship we won in 6 years too. So I was pretty stoked about that.
I mean, look, it's nothing wrong with being even a little stitious. And then when everything is over and you know the end result, then you crank out all the gear and then you go to, coach's corner, and then you go and have the big banquet or whatever. Great to see you. Great to catch up with you. Do not be a stranger. I'll be knocking on your door soon. And thanks for all that you do for the sport down there at Savannah Arts. Congratulations. And we will be catching up with you on the flip side. Go get some rest.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you.
There goes Ben Parker, head coach at Savannah Arts. Okay. One more red clay today because we are toward the beginning of hour number 3. Just to give you the rundown here. It is one more red clay interview today, and that's going to be with Lucas Kimmel from Thomasville on the girls' side. We're going to have that. Then on the flip side of the Lucas Kimmel interview, we're going to get caught up on everything else. Anything else that you guys want to talk about when it comes to Open Cup from last night? Morning, David. Good to see you. So we've got that. We've got all your AM news. We got a lot of stuff on Southampton. Lawsuit involving the NASL. It might be the end of Western United in Australia. We got some stuff involving FIFA and maybe a clock and stops and starts with IFAB and American soccer. So that's added time coming up in a bit. And now it is our last red clay of the day. We did catch up with Molly McCarty from Jefferson because of its length and because of all of the different points that we got into. We're going to turn that separately. That's going to be on the network later today as a podcast. Video will be available also later, but the audio of that's going to get flipped first. It was a great in-depth conversation that we got to have with Molly before she had to go and monitor testing on the Jefferson campus. And it was really cool to catch up with her before her morning started. So without further ado, we're going to wrap up hour number 2, bridge into hour number 3, catching up with Thomasville head coach on the girls' side, Lucas Kimmel, and find out what it's been like for him over the last little bit to have one of the 2 trophies that headed back to Thomasville. We caught up with Coach Peterson yesterday. Time to catch up with Coach Kimmel today. So my first question for you, Coach, is you have let Coach Peterson have both the trophies in like his office space. It's they're a matching set.
Yeah, they're side by side there. Just because our offices there are relatively new in the construction of this new gym. And I don't yet have like curtains and stuff in mine. I haven't had the time to decorate mine. We just we set them up before we put them into the actual trophy case we have.
Did you get to take it home with you? Did you lose track of it at any point?
Not a chance. No, I didn't take it home, but not a chance I was losing track of that. That stayed with me and with our stuff all the way home.
My first question having to do with the match in and of itself is that Luke Winstall and I, when we called the match on NFHS, the first thing that I noticed to me was not a surprise, but it was the amount of crowd support that had come up from Thomasville to be in Thomaston for this match. What was it like for you and the team to look across and see all of those white T-shirts, and then you have the splashes of red there? What was it like on the left-hand side of your screen to see everybody that was here for the match?
Oh, I mean, it was surreal. Having that much of the community come together to travel that far just to come watch a couple soccer games. Granted, it is, yes, 2 state championship games, and you get to go watch both of them, but it was awesome, especially, I mean, seeing that kind of crowd.
And I give a lot of them full credit for making sure that they found their way into the shade under the press box shadow. The students, they were their own band of crazy. You knew they were going to be in the front anyway. But everybody started realizing, oh, there's shade. So everybody kind of would back up and try to give themselves a little bit of space. So that was great knowledge of the geography that was there. How many times have you seen the match since you finished the match and got home? How many more times have you watched it?
2 full-time through, and then bits and pieces of a third.
So when you watched it all the way through, was there anything that stuck out in your head about the match in and of itself that you may not have realized or recognized when you were live with it?
Not necessarily that I didn't realize at the time. It more of kind of like reminded me at each point, like, oh, I remember that play. We were very close there, or that was a great tackle, or good clearance. I mean, I remembered the majority of it, and just kind of going back and critiquing a little bit here and there, obviously what we could have done better, or what we excelled at during that game. But it's just, again, it's a crazy experience that's going to be permanently in my head for the rest of my life.
All right. So I'll go through the first 40 minutes. What did you talk to them at the half about?
Just reminding them a lot of the things they were doing very well at, reminding them what we had to continue to do to stay ahead, or to keep them from falling asleep, or to keep them from scoring, to keep us from falling behind at all. But it was just a lot of encouragement about them just not giving up, not stopping until it was all over.
And it took longer than 80. So in those conditions that you were in, 80 minutes are done. I wasn't surprised that it was goalless. What was the conversation like after 80 going into the overtime periods?
A little bit intense, just to, again, trying to make sure they find that edge to keep pushing through, to finish it again all the way through. We had a few very good chances on corners right there at the end that could have prevented us from going to overtime, but just talking again about taking advantage of any of these chances we had. I knew that we had the opportunities, that they were going to continue to come. We just had to find that last little bit to put it in the back of the net.
And you did practically right there at the end of 100.
53 seconds left.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 50. Yeah, it's like 53 and change. It was like 53.2 or something like that. But then you've got to make sure that once it goes in, it trickles into the net, that you got to manage that extra 53 to make sure that nothing happens, that you don't get anything quick coming back at you the other way. Horn sounds, you win. Everybody to your left is going crazy in the stands. Was it a Jim Valvano kind of a moment where you're looking for folks to hug? Is it, were you running out there trying to grab anybody and everybody? What do you remember about it?
I didn't sprint off like a lot of people. It was just, again, kind of surreal. It was like, what do I do now? I mean, yeah, we've won a lot of close games, and it's been this kind of situation, but it was finally finished.
How
do I go get the trophy? Do I go celebrate with the girls? Do I go thank fans or referees or the other team?
I think
do we get out of the way for the boys next?
It's like, we're not done yet. I still need to get my trophy. I think that the matchup with Model, I think it was a great personification of what, for anyone who hasn't seen Class A Division I, what that classification brings to the table when it comes to the sport in and of itself. Because you've got Lamar, you've got Fannin, it's you, it's Social Circle, it's Model, it's Ace, it's Jeff Davis, it's Bremen. Bleckley's coming from the outside now, and they're coming in. Toombs County, we know what they bring to the table. What do you think folks are missing by not seeing, for the next couple of months anyway, Class A Division I soccer? What are they missing out on?
Just more and more talented players. I mean, they're not all at the 6A and the 3A. Even some of these smaller schools have incredible amounts of talent that can, again, compete with some of the best teams in the state.
How hard is it to go 23-0?
It's difficult. It's difficult enough to where very few teams can achieve that. And I feel very lucky to be one of those teams, or one of those coaches to coach one of those teams that are able to do that.
How much time are you giving yourself to celebrate, catch your breath? Did you sleep late the next day?
I had to go back to work and attend a school field trip, middle school field trip.
Have you given yourself any days to sleep late since you won?
I got almost a 3-year-old daughter and a 5-month-old son, so sleep's not really an option right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
When I mention this group of seniors, what sticks in your head?
Just a great group of girls, leaders, just fantastic young ladies. They again have been there since my 3 years of taking over the girls program, and again, they're like family.
And when you see what Thomasville as a program, and I mean both boys and girls, is developing on that side of the boulevard. And I asked Coach Peterson this question too. I said, there's there's what's being developed at the Red School. And then as he referred to it, he said, yes, over at the county school, the folks that wear the blue and the gold, for folks that know War of the Roses in other sports, they know what it means. So they know what that rivalry is, in WOTBALL and all the other sports and everything. And one of the things that I've noticed in catching up with the Thomas County the county school folks, and you two over there, is that the rivalry exists, but there's also this idea of rising tide lifting all boats. And so there's a camaraderie that's attached to it from both schools, even though there is a rivalry that is there as well. Am I off here?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, obviously there's that little bit of rivalry, same town, different schools, but that's the only time I truly see it, at least for soccer, is when we're on the field.
Yeah.
Because once we're on the field, yes, each team wants to win, wants to beat the other team, but off the field, these girls or these players see each other so often that it's the civility is there. They're friends with both schools, and a lot of them play together in travel soccer as well, club soccer. So the relationships are there as well. But yes, when it's on the field, when it's us versus them, when it's game time, yeah, there's a rival to it.
So in the 3 years that you've been there as the head coach, how has the sport grown there on the red side of town? Or you could take Thomasville on the whole. How has the sport grown in the 3 years that you've been there in charge on the girls' side?
It's again building. It's the development of the players, the numbers that we're having come out, the interest in the sport itself, and the increased in skill level, the ability are all they're on the rise.
So then I make you in charge of the entire sport in the state of Georgia. You find the highest point you can. It might be on top of the Walmart, at the intersection. It's fairly high ground unless you go downtown or something. Find the tallest building in town. You stand on top of that building, and you're in charge of soccer in the state of Georgia for an entire day. Crown, scepter, robe, the whole thing. Is there one thing that you'd like to change or update about high school soccer in the state of Georgia?
That's a question you'd have to give me a bit more time to think on.
You shoot me an email. That's perfectly fine. Well, like I said, if it's something to think about, you can always shoot me an email back. That's perfectly fine on that one. It's the king for a day question, and we've been asking all of the championship coaches about that kind of a thing, and the answers do vary. Whether it's calendar a little bit because sometimes it might be too cold to start, things like that.
I'd love a winter season.
Okay.
I love the cold.
And I mean, and down there on off of Georgia 300 and go onto the boulevard, it's not as bad down there as it is, for folks a little further up. So
that is true as well. Yeah.
It might be a bit of a snowbird schedule that you could get orchestrated if you ended up with a winter schedule. From playing here and growing up and everything, what do you think the most important thing is about high school soccer in the state?
Most important thing about high school soccer, just again, continuing the development. Some coaches only get to see these players these 3 months out of the year. Some coaches also coach some of the travel ball, so they keep up and are with the clubs and see the progression there as well. But again, just pushing that not taking those 5 months, 6 months, however long off a year and not touching a ball, but just continuing to have that skill, to not let that rust build up, and again continue the improvement.
Then there's a tournament coming here to this hemisphere. You might have heard of it. Coming out in about a month, and this World Cup thing. When it shows up and it's here for that 5 weeks, what do you want to see the impact and the legacy of the summer's World Cup be?
Again, just more exposure to the game of soccer, at least for the U.S., for South Georgia especially as well. Most popular sport in the world, but not necessarily in the U.S., and just to continue to develop and have those players get that kind of exposure to be able to, or have that excitement to go play on the professional level like they do for MLB or NFL or whatever other professional sports, to continue to grow that level of enjoyment and desire at the soccer level.
How much time are you going to give yourself to enjoy this title before you start thinking about 27?
Another week. Let me finish out this week of school and all the events that we have going on here, and then it's time to start thinking for the next.
How full is your schedule?
Planning.
How full is your schedule?
I think we have room for a couple games still, but again, Peterson and I are working together to make sure our schedule is right for the next season, especially with the way the power rankings are set up and all of that.
What's it like with him as a mentor and a guide through all of this?
Oh, extremely helpful. We get along great. Very family, close friends, and just any questions that I might have, any advice that I might need, he's definitely always there to help me.
What's your first memory of interacting with him on any level, regardless of situation?
First memory, probably running 400s fitness with him as the coach as a ninth grader.
And that was at Cairo, right?
Yeah.
So it was 75 degrees, no humidity, everything was fine.
Probably closer to the 90 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, I have, full disclosure, I have been there for preseason football practice, and it was when Coach Falah was in charge, and it was then. And so it was, I just remember like a block or two away from the school, there was a bank, and it had one of those old clock, like the old triangle clocks that was digital, and it would tell you the time and then the temperature. And I remember it going to 104 degrees on that particular clock with that bank. And it was, I had blown through like 3 or 4 shirts that day when we went down to go cover the syrup makers. And I know of which you speak, but I also know it is a very, very special environment for what they do and how they support all of their athletics. And I know that you're getting that there at Thomasville. Lucas, I cannot thank you enough. First off, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know that with 2 youngins, it's kind of hard to catch your breath a little bit. Have you got the gear all plotted out and you figured out the rings yet, or is that another conversation with Peterson?
That's all part of the schedule this week.
Well, may everything come out shiny and red, and may all the gear look fantastic. It's always great to see you and catch up with you, and thanks for everything that you were doing with us this season. We will catch up with you soon because 27 will be here before you know it.
Yes, sir.
Lucas Kimmel, head coach at Thomasville on the girls' side, and so that is red clay for your Wednesday. Like I said, we caught up with Molly McCarty from Jefferson, and that's going to be its own thing. So keep your ears out for that interview. That's going to be posted a little later this afternoon. Okay, so now that we are in hour number 3, and probably go for another 15 minutes of rapid fire and all of that stuff. So we'll keep you posted on what we're doing there. All right, here's what we like I said, any last thoughts that you have on Open Cup? We'll probably be talking about it today and tomorrow heading into the week. Tomorrow, by the way, we wrap up our red clay material. Dustin Jeanette from GMC is going to join us off the top. Then Clayton Schmidt from Holy Innocents is going to join us at 9:20. Joe Gould, the GM for Decatur FC. WPSL gets started Friday. Drew and I are going to be on hand for the Decatur FC home matches this year again. So we're going to catch up with Joel about 9:45. Power Hour with Nino and Nico, breaking things down with everything around the planet. Libertadores, Sudamericana, end of the activity in Portugal. Jose Mourinho leaving from Benfica, probably heading back to Real Madrid, and waiting for the season to end before that happens. Then, obviously, everything around Major League Soccer. Open Cup with Nico Moreno from our friends from Pulso Sports. Chris Doran, the play-by-play voice of Columbus Crew, is going to join us in added time tomorrow to break down what that team is like in transition. Remember, Henrik Rydstrom was dismissed after 14 games, and so now it is Laurent Courtois and his interimness. He's going to be the head coach for the foreseeable future. So we're going to talk about 2 teams in transition, Atlanta and Columbus. Chris Doran, voice of Columbus Crew, is going to join us tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and that's going to be Thursday. Friday is still set to be a day of chaos involving our friends from Apple TV. I have half a mind to sit there and tell our friends at MLS Soccer, don't tell me who it is. We'll just go. Tell me the times that people are showing up. Don't tell me who. And we'll go from there. So that is how we're looking at the remainder of this week. Let's get you into headlines and let you know what's going on. Obviously, the biggest thing to discuss is in the news department is the situation at Southampton. And that has turned into a situation all of its own, where you now have it is chaos of the highest order right now when it comes to the championship and the fallout from the cheating scandal, spying scandal, Spygate 2.0. From our buddy Ben Jacobs, Hull City, and this is within the hour, Hull City are consulting lawyers to see if they have a case to be promoted straight to the Premier League after Southampton, subject to the appeal, which is going on right now. And that in and of itself is appeal, end of the road. So appeal happens, decision one way or the other, it cannot go to CAS. So the appeal is the end of it. So championship playoffs, Southampton expelled, Middlesbrough in. Hull, according to Ben, unhappy at the prospect of facing Middlesbrough at Wembley, having spent over a week preparing to play Southampton. Saints' appeal is tonight. So if you add 5 hours, it's 4:20 in the afternoon as we're talking. So they're going to argue the punishment is too harsh. Hull's players had a pre-planned day off today, returning tomorrow with either 2 days to prepare for Borough or to potentially learn the final is against Southampton again. Hull are leaving legal avenues open, including the prospect of a challenge after the final. So you've got that to look into with the current situation involving Southampton, Middlesbrough, and Hull. Hull apparently, once again, according to Alex Crook, speaking with lawyers to see if they have a case to be straight promoted. And so Crook and our buddy Ben Jacobs have been all over this particular story. Then you have a statement from the Southampton CEO that happened during the show this morning, confirming the appeal and the expulsion and the 4-point deduction. Phil Parsons, not that Phil Parsons, Southampton CEO, addressed the supporters, players, and the football community. He says, quote, "What happened was wrong. Club has admitted breaches of EFL regulations 3.4 and 127. Sorry to the other clubs involved. They lost each match. They were 0 for 3 in their spying. Most of all to Southampton supporters, so on and so forth. Provided our full cooperation to the EFL investigation and disciplinary process. Following the appeal, we'll also be writing to the EFL to volunteer our participation in a working group on the practical application and enforcement of Regulation 127 across the championship on the appeal itself. Accept that there should be a sanction. What we cannot accept is a sanction which bears no proportion to the offense. Leeds was fined £200,000. That was Bielsa. Southampton have been denied the opportunity to compete in a game worth more than $200 million, and one which means so much to our staff, players, and supporters. We believe the financial consequence of yesterday's ruling makes it by a very considerable distance the largest penalty ever imposed on an English football club. Paragraph. Luton Town's 30-point deduction in 2008-2009, to date the most severe supporting sanction in the English game levied against a club already in League Two. No comparable revenue at stake. Derby County's 21-point deduction in 2021 cost them their championship status. Everton's eventual 6-point deduction in 23-24 followed losses of £124.5 million, a figure dwarfed by what has been taken from Southampton in a single afternoon. The largest financial penalty ever levied by the Premier League against Chelsea in March of this year, £10.75 million, accompanied by no sporting sanction whatsoever, despite involving £47.5 million in undisclosed payments over 7 years. We say this not to minimize what occurred at this club, which we have accepted was wrong. We say it because proportionality itself is itself a principle of natural justice. Commission entitled to impose a sanction. It was not, we will argue, entitled to impose one that is manifestly disproportionate to every previous sanction in the history of the English game. Our appeal will be heard today, provide a further update in due course. So Southampton is going at the penalty and discussing proportionality. They're not denying that they violated rules. So we'll see what happens with the appeal tonight. We'll find out if they get reinstated, if it's a final, 4-point deduction, all the things. Also, because of what happened, Tonda Eckert, according to Alex Crook over at TalkSport, he could be facing a ban and a sacking, which I would have anticipated already. Once the appeal is decided, my guess is Tonda Eckert gets sacked. That's my guess. Full report into the scandal expected to confirm that Eckert admitted responsibility for secretly watching opposition teams in training, something that is in common practice in his native Germany. Saints owner Dragan Solak say the Serbian will be furious with Eckert for bringing the club's name into disrepute and costing him a shot at £200 million at Wembley. Eckert and sporting director Johannes Spors, who also learned his trade in Germany, according to Alex Crook, likely to come under investigation from the FA, risk potential suspensions. Also fear among Southampton hierarchy that sponsors will pull out of deals for not wanting to be associated with a club who've admitted cheating. Taylor Harwood Bellis, team captain, said to be raging at having their shot and place in the Premier League and lucrative salaries coming with it snatched away. We mentioned the appeal. So we mentioned about intern Will Salt, pictured conducting an unauthorized filming of semifinal opponents in training. EFL regulations state clubs are prohibited from observing or attempting to observe another team's training session within 72 hours of a scheduled fixture. Spied on Ipswich Town and Oxford United, according to the investigation. Eckert could be banned for up to 18 months. So Southampton, if they fight back in this, Middlesbrough sends out a statement, and so that's where we are. Appeal tonight, final decision tonight, and we'll find out what the end result is in this saga, at least in this go-round anyway. So that's where we are with Southampton. Title parade starting at 2 o'clock on Sunday, May 31st for Arsenal, which is going to include the Champions League trophy if they beat PSG. Steve McLaren is now the new head of football at Rotherham United. Arsenal keeping track on Eli Junior Krupi at Bournemouth. UEFA confirming the Nations League is going to transition from 4 leagues to 3 of 18. New format 28-29. League's going to be composed of 3 groups of 6 matches, 5 different opponents. League C is going to have 1 group of 7. Calendar is going to start a window early. Remaining unchanged, the quarters, the Final Four, and the promotion relegation playoffs. Concept's going to be fine-tuned over the next few months before being submitted to final approval at the executive committee meeting in September. Like I said, Ben Jacobs very, very busy today. So a lot of stuff with him. Watford in advanced talks to hire Niels Fredriksson. Led Lech Poznan to back-to-back Polish titles. Hopefully, Niels Fredriksson gets everything in writing. So we'll see what happens there. Also on the board this morning, it was at the Guardian. They have been very busy. It appears, according to published reports at the Guardian, that you may end up with, when it comes to Major League Soccer, consultation with IFAB about exploring stopping the clock for pauses in play. Injury substitution set pieces. Discussions with MLS and IFAB about trialing the use of a stopped clock. However, clock stops commonplace in other American sports and also in the college and high school game. Paul Grafer, VP of Competition, told The Guardian reintroducing a stopped clock is one thing we often talk about when we discuss the future of the game. Statement from Ali Curtis. Preliminary conversations with IFAB around future areas of innovation, including concepts such as stop clock, increased transparency around timekeeping, and other measures designed to improve consistency and fan understanding. That was confirmed by Curtis to The Guardian. So keep an eye on that going forward. Bournemouth now might be racing against the clock to try and update the vitality in time for European football. They're going to have some work to do there. UEFA, when it comes to the Women's Champions League, they're vowing to take a hard line on multi-club ownership in Women's Champions League football. Teams with the same owners, according to Tom Gary at The Guardian, cannot compete against each other. The head of women's football says no exceptions. Especially you're looking to have a Michelle Kang club play a Michelle Kang club. So Kang owns Lyon, who are in Saturday's Champions League final, and London City, whose coach Eder Maestra last week stated their desire to compete in the Super League for the Super League title next year. Nadine Kessler said no exceptions would be made in the women's game. There's an evolution of MCO in women's football, and they invest a lot, which is important. Kessler is UEFA's women's football director. When it comes to playing football in one competition, no different approach, no exceptions when it comes to the women's game. This is being closely monitored. So keep an eye out on that. Yeah, David, did we find out if Connor Stallions was hired by Southampton after he snuck out of Michigan? Do not know, but I can ask sources that we have that follow the TTUN, and hopefully we can come up with an answer. We'll come up with an answer for that. Let's see. I'm trying to see. I'm dealing with like 9 sheets of paper here. Looks like Western United might be on the clock in the A-League because of new regulations that have been posted when it comes to getting license approvals and things like that. The lawsuit involving Major League Soccer and the North American Soccer League and U.S. Soccer, the antitrust appeal, according to Michael McCann, U.S. Soccer Federation MLS defeated an appeal by the North American Soccer League, threatening more than $500 million in damages. NASL claims U.S. Soccer and MLS illegally conspired to refuse to recognize NASL as a Division II league. Summary order, Second Circuit Clerk Catherine O'Hagan-Wolf, following review by Circuit Judges Dennis Jacobs, Barrington Parker, Raymond Lohier Jr., Second Circuit rejected NASL's argument it was not required to prove a relevant market, meaning an area of competition subject to antitrust scrutiny, to sustain its antitrust claims. Judge Wolf, the clerk, wrote that the NASL waived that argument at several points in litigation and is thus barred from raising it on appeal. The appeal follows a federal jury decision in New York last year, siding with U.S. Soccer and Major League Soccer, NASL insisting that the USSF wrongly classified it as a Division III league, which is the lowest of the 3 divisions and influences how fans, media, and broadcasters regard a soccer league in terms of quality and prestige. U.S. Soccer disputed the argument, maintaining classification was appropriate in light of various factors, including minimum seating, medium stadium seating capacity, number of teams, and time zone coverage. Michael McCann with the story over at Sportico. That is probably your required reading for the morning. So keep an eye out on McCann Law and what he has up and running for his stories today. So here's your Sportico link for the morning involving Michael McCann and the case involving U.S. Soccer, Major League Soccer, and the North American Soccer League. So let's see. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We got to get into that. So let's go there and let you know what the latest is with the very, very busy day that is today. So what to watch is brought to us by our friends at Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. Open Cup continues. CONCACAF W Champions Cup moves into the semis. Libertadores Sudamericana, that is on BN and BN Espanol. Libertadores at 6 and 10. Sudamericana with River Plate and Red Bull Bragantino is at 8:30. With Fanati's, you get all the BNs, and I mean all the BNs. So you get Libertadores, Sudamericana, French League, Polish League, and what's the other league? French League, Polish League, and French League, Polish League, Turkish League, as their seasons all wind down. And you get everything out of Africa. You get CAF, you get AFCON, you get all of the tournaments and the qualifiers. You get TVV out of Venezuela if you want to add it. CDO, Nuestra Tele. You get TIC out of Argentina, Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. All of the different leagues, A and B divisions, a lot of those in South America. You get that at Fanati's. Also ties into CATV, Copa Argentina at TIC, and Tigo Sports. CBS Sports Network, Europa League final, Freiburg and Aston Villa at 3, Open Cup, 10 o'clock, Rapids and San Jose. FS2, league we don't talk about, 2 o'clock. Bien Espanol, Libertadores, triple header. Fox Deportes, it is simulcasting the league we don't talk about. Golazo has Crew and NYC at 7:30. 2 matches on ESPN Plus, USL Championship. Fox O&E, Serie B, Palermo Catanzaros at 2. Fox Soccer Plus simulcasting. Paramount simulcasting, Europa League and Open Cup. Women's side, CBS Sports Network, NWSL, Dash and Wave at 8. ESPN Deportes has the semifinals in the Champions Cup doubleheader. Club America Gotham at 7:30, Washington Spirit Pachuca at 10:30, simulcast on Paramount Plus. Victory Plus has NWSL available, Portland and Bay, Angel City, and Kansas City Current. So that is what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it from our friends at Fanatics at fntz.co/soccer down here. Now, gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we are out the door to break it all down for you. And a very, very busy day across the board with a bunch of things. So, Erling Haaland said after the match, City should be angry over losing the title. I'm not surprised by that at all. Pep Guardiola is also set for talks with the City chair over the exit because he said he was waiting till the end of the year. So we're getting close to that. You have also the 22-year wait and the parade that's going to be happening for Arsenal coming up at the end of the month. Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United among the clubs lining up a deal to sign Jared Bowen this summer, according to The Guardian. Hammers looking to be relegated. Need to raise about £100 million in player exits. If they do, he's been with West Ham since 2020, since moving from Hull City, 8 + 10 this year. United and Liverpool showing interest in Juve defender Gleison Bremer, according to Gazzetta dello Sport, ready to consider his future if they fail to reach Champions League for next year, contract that expires in 29. Brazil International caught the eye of Premier League clubs. Juve's previous demands for a €70 million transfer fee have dropped. Arsenal, Chelsea, United. Stepping up interest in Club Brugge winger Christos Solis, according to Team Talk, 20 + 27 in 50 appearances across all comps this year. It is all 3 clubs linked to reporting to have sent scouts to watch him, which could lead to a move. Barca going to need to move a few players if they're going to sign Bastoni. According to Marca, linked with a €70 million move for the Italy center back. Doubts have emerged over the possibility of a deal. Araujo and Jules Koundé have been touted as possible options who may need to make way. Still uncertainty over Andreas Christensen and whether he signs a new deal. Rodri would love to join Real Madrid this summer, according to Marca. Willingness to move to Madrid would make a move easier, strengthen in a position where the club is keen to improve. Pep's exit from City may also play a part in the decision. Paulo Dybala open to a switch to the Premier League this year as he nears the end of his contract at Roma. Sky claims that the striker would like to move to England, even though talks over a new deal are underway. Played most of his whole senior career in Italy, Palermo, Juve, 4 years at Roma, 45 + 28 and 130 appearances. Marc Cucurella is Atletico Madrid's priority signing this summer. Although they know that the arrival would not be easy, Atletico expect defenders Jose Jimenez and Clement Lenglet to depart. That's from Marca. Cadena Ser, Atleti would also be happy to sanction a big money departure for Julian Alvarez, as it would generate funds for said window. Valentin Barco set to join Chelsea after he announced his exit from Strasbourg, 6-year deal on offer. We talked about that yesterday. It's from L'Equipe. Nicolas Schira, Bayern showing interest in Inter Milan defender Jan Bisek. Contract through 29, though. Fabrizio Romano, Manchester United keeper Alte Bayindir could leave the club this summer. Besiktas showing interest. Team Talk, Monaco braced for interest in winger Magnus Akliush by Manchester United and Liverpool. 2 years remaining on his deal. Romano, again, FC Porto youngster William Gomes is an option for Atletico de Madrid. Contact between the two clubs has opened up. Chelsea placed Crystal Palace's and France defender Maxence Lacroix as a key target in the window. 3 years left on his deal. Ekrem Konur. Marseille looking at potential squad change. Quentin Timber among those who could leave the club. Villa and Palace showing interest in the midfielder. Mundo Deportivo, Barcelona ready to do everything possible to keep loanees Marcus Rashford, Joao Cancelo at the club. And then L'Equipe, Burnley defender Maxime Esteve has been linked with a move to Everton, Bournemouth, Forest, and Bayer Leverkusen after suffering relegation from the Premier League. Busy day. Busy day tomorrow. Busy day all over the place. Busy day for a lot of things. And so we can't thank you all enough for everything that we did today on yet another long supersized show going into added time. Obviously, we're going into added time tomorrow. We talked about what's going on then, and it's going to be Dustin Jeanette, GMC, Clayton Schmidt, Holy Innocents, Joe Gould, the GM at Decatur FC at 9:45, Power Hour 10 and 10:30, Chris Dorn joining us at 11 to get ready for Crew and Atlanta United coming up on Saturday. The MLS Soccer Day of Chaos Voices of Apple TV show is going to be on Friday. So thanks again to all of you folks for hanging out with us as you always do. Molly McCarty's interview that we had with her this morning is going to be a separate podcast because of its length and because of all of the different points. That is going to be also massive requested listening here on the network. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks to Justin O'Steen at Pike, Rob Husted at Greenbrier, Dylan Butler, MLSsoccer.com, Jason Galt, West Forsyth, Ben Parker, Savannah Arts, Mike Gramajo, WESH-TV, Lucas Kimmel from Thomasville, Molly McCarty from Jefferson, all of us here, to all of you, thanks for hanging out with us on another supersized show. Since it is the end of the show, I'm not going to talk for a while. It means I get to do this. Play it safe, everybody. We'll see you in the morning.